Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having
You
me.
you have been such a great advocate for not only the chamber but for Chandler, and a great representative down there recently at the House and now at the Senate. Can you give our public policy people a little bit of an update on, number one, what you've been working on, and number two, what's next?
Boy, number two, what's next? That's a great question. So, we went into recess, which is maybe unprecedented, but certainly highly unusual for us, about a week and a half ago or so. The Senate had passed a budget that the House then passed the following week. And it was basically just to make sure the government can stay open. We weren't really sure when, after we began the recess, we'd be able to come back. As of a few minutes ago, now we have a stay-at-home order for Arizona through the end of the month of April. Don't know what's going to happen after that. So we wanted to make sure that if nothing else, we had a government that would continue to function starting July 1st, when the new fiscal year goes into effect. Even so, as much as it was kind of a skinny budget or bare bones budget, people said it's essentially what we had last year, but growing by inflation and population in places where you have caseload increases. But we did also give extra money for schools. We funded, whether it be building renewal projects. So we still were able to allocate some additional resources to key areas, mostly focused on education. We also allocated over $100 million between two different pots of money that are going to help the COVID situation, whether it's health care related or providing a safety net for folks who are economically hardship as a result of this. And then we went into recess, and we're supposed to end our recess or come back on April 13th, but I'm thinking that's probably not going to happen now until probably further into May in all likelihood. But we just want to be available for anything we can do at the state level to help. The feds just passed their stimulus package, the $2 trillion stimulus package. It's like $150 billion, I think, for states. So we're going to have to dissect what that means for Arizona, how we can utilize those monies to help people who are dealing with hardship right now. And this, of course, is above and beyond the other aspects of what they passed. We also passed some legislation to help schools navigate this crisis. In fact, we had various contingencies about how long, the schools might be out for. And as we now know, again, from earlier today, it's going to be through the end of the year. So we did have a contingency in place for that. I'm happy to talk more about that. And then lastly, expanding unemployment insurance benefits as well. So tried to put everything in place before we hit recess, and then we are available to go back to do more as needed.
I know with this changing situation, it literally changes hour by hour. And I know that I spoke with your seatmates the other day. And since we spoke, there's been, President Trump came out with an announcement. He came out again yesterday, and now the governor's announcement this morning. So it really does change. So
it does.
What are some of the key things that once you go back into session that are going to be top of mind?
Yeah, well, this will be top of mind. All else kind of fades into the background. And just to give you some context, we've been putting a much more optimistic budget together for several months. And we were going to see unprecedented investments in all sorts of areas. We had the largest surplus we've ever had, $1 billion in the rainy day fund, and no recession on the horizon as far as we could tell. It's amazing how quickly things can turn around. In some ways, it was good that we hadn't reached a budget deal yet, because we were relatively close, because it all went out the window. And months of work and preparation essentially were tossed in the garbage as we had to reassess, as everyone across the country, or really across and around the world, are reassessing now. So when we go back, I think we will look at areas of the budget that need increasing. We have the rainy day fund for a reason. We're going to have, I'm not exactly sure, but I think at least $1 billion coming from the feds. We're still dissecting what all was there and what it means for Arizona. So we'll be looking to apply that in the best way we can. And then there were the vast majority of the bills that we've been working on this session that still have a positive impact on people's lives that we still need to usher through the process. I think some of the maybe more controversial issues might go by the wayside as we focus on what absolutely needs to be done before we adjourn permanently for the year. But there's no doubt that COVID will be top of everyone's minds.
Absolutely. Thank goodness under the leadership down there that we did have that rainy day fund in place and that we have had several very good years. Otherwise, I don't know where we would be.
Oh yeah, that makes two of us.
And I mean that with all sincerity. And now is the time more than ever where we're really going to have to come together and make sure that we are reaching across party lines to make
Yeah,
sure.
and the budget that we passed did that. It had the vast majority of both members, both sides of the aisle from both chambers on the budget. Some exceptions here and there, but everyone was in agreement. We at least need to pass these things. Obviously, some other issues we'll live to fight another day. I think you'll see a lot of that. In fact, it was remarkable how quickly that realization set in on everybody. There were some political maneuvers that, inevitably infiltrated here and there, but it was nothing like in Congress. And for the most part, we got it done pretty quickly once this set on.
Well, I am so glad we have such strong representation down there and really keeping business at the forefront. So thank you for your leadership. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you as things changed hour by hour here that I should?
I probably have in my home and in our lives the same uncertainty that many out there are facing. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know is the peak in front of us? Seemingly, it probably is. How widespread is this going to be? We keep hearing of the spread of how many folks have been diagnosed, and then of course how many have passed away, but you don't know how many that have not been tested have it and are just fine. And so it's very difficult. It's difficult to make assessments. You're trying to weigh, the human toll and then the economic toll. I know that the governor had been resistant, and I totally understand why issuing the order that he just did, which is shutting everything down, because it causes economic hardship, which ripples on, and that also has a human toll. So we're faced with a lot of bad choices right now. Everyone from the president and Congress all the way down to the governor and the legislature, and just as every family in Arizona and across the country is facing. So difficult times. We need to stick together and look out for our fellow man and frankly pray that this thing passes quickly, because it's been a challenge, and I fear that it's only going to become more difficult. Hopefully we can all adhere to the social distancing, to staying at home, and we can get past this quickly.
Well, again, I thank you for your time and for your leadership. And we will circle back again because I'll be curious to see the next update. And I appreciate you taking time, honoring the social distancing, but policy is really important. And I think we need to keep you out there and still so that people know what's going on and it's not misinformation. It's coming right from our legislators.
Yep, anytime. I'm happy to speak with you. Yeah, there's a lot of bad information, a lot of bad rumors out there, things that are playing on people's fears, which is really unfortunate. So yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm happy to serve.
Well, great. Well, thank you. Thank you to you. And we'll be in touch again. Thanks for joining us, Senator.
Thanks. You bet.